Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another update of my Pendos palettes. I have these 4 palettes that I'm gonna be updating for you and show you if I was able to hit any pans or use up any eyeshadows and where I am with my palettes. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. Please like this video and comment down below what's your current panning project. It doesn't have to be Panda palette, but whatever panning project or project you're part of. I would just like to get a little bit more inspiration. And in case you're new here, hi, my name's Sascha. I love indie makeup, I love colorful makeup, I love panning, and just, having fun with my collection, going through my entire collection and not leaving anything behind. So in case you like any of these topics, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe and stick around. It does help me out a lot if you are subscribed. But now let's move to the side. I have a couple, well, 2 of the palettes I have on my eyes today, and I'm wearing one of the palettes on my nails. I just repainted my nails. I've actually worn this particular manicure for the past week and I really enjoyed it, and now that it started looking a little bit strange, I decided to repaint it the same way just because I'm really enjoying this. It's still slightly, it's not damp, but I can't really do anything. I can't do too much with my hands because otherwise it's gonna get ruined. So I'm gonna start with the palette that I really want to finish this year, and it's the Christmas Eve palette from Oden's Eye. I've already finished the Merry Christmas palette 2 months ago, I believe. Yeah, I think I wasn't updating that one last month, so it should be 2 months. And I have the Christmas Eve palette left. Last month we were working on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shades, and 3 of them are frankened into one pan, so I'm gonna talk about them at the same time. So what we had left was the shade Silvery Dream, which is actually part of the Franken shade, and it consists of Silvery Dream, Wonderful, and Blue Star. And I've used this entire Franken shade 11 times in the past month. So the shade Silvery Dream went from 50 uses to 61 uses. The shade Wonderful went from... Sorry, I've used it 12 times. I've misspoken. So the shade Silvery Dream went from 50 uses to 62. The shade Wonderful went from 81 to 93, and the shade Blue Star went from 73 to 85. So all of these were used 12 times in the past month, clearly, since they're, frankened into one pan. And this is how the pan looks like. So as you can see, it is a bit dirty, but I don't have any of the shade. I mean, technically I could scrape up a little bit, but I'm not gonna. It's not that important for me. I'm counting this as an empty, and that means I have 3 empty shades because, there are 3 shades inside this pan. So that one is really, really exciting. Then the next shade is the shade Just Now, which is this kind of soft green, like mid-tone green shade. Just Now was at 30 uses, or it was at 30 uses, and now it's at 37. And this is how it looks like. I've been using it a lot as like an everyday. I've been panning a lot of green shades, not just in this palette, but with other Panda palette and other like Pendos eyeshadows and Project Level Up and stuff like that. So I've had a lot of green shades, and I would always incorporate this and try to wear it. If not on its own, I would wear it all over the lid and then use other shades to kind of cover it up in the crease, just to get moving, just to get a little bit more progress with this shade. And I definitely think that the pan has expanded and the dip is expanding as well. Like, it's getting pretty shallow in the pan, which makes me very happy, and I really hope that I'm gonna be able to use it up within the next 2 months. That one is the only shade that I'm actually kind of worried about, but I'm just, whenever I'm gonna wear any look that allows it, so that is at least dark enough or green enough, I'm gonna wear it on my lid, just to like set my primer essentially, and that way I could use it up sooner. And then another shade that we have to talk about is the shade Filtering Time, which is kind of like a bronzy shade that I was working on. And the shade Filtering Time was at 54 uses, and now it's at 64, so I've used it 10 times, and this is how it looks like right now. And as you can see, we're also done with this one. It was very shallow in the pan, and there was a huge pan last time I was talking about this, at least from what I remember. So, or maybe it was just repressed, but it was very, very shallow in the pan. And obviously these are also super tiny pans. So it took 10 uses and it's completely used up. I would use it kind of all over the lid, on my lower lash line, like everywhere. Not that I wouldn't like this shade, I actually did, but it, you know, I've been working on it for so long. So it took 64 uses to use it up completely. Then we have the shade Softly, which was at 120 uses, and now it's at 128 uses, so I've used it 8 times, and this is how it looks like. So it's completely finished. I would use it every single day in my brows, and also I would use it a lot with the green shade for my like neutral everyday looks going to work. And that way I managed to use it up, and 128 uses. But to be honest, at least half of those, if, well, more, I feel like at least 90 of those were on my eyebrows. I would use it all throughout the summer and then up until now. So yeah, a lot of that were for that, and also I would use it as my bronzer every time I could, stuff like that. So yeah, this one is also finished. So we have 5 shades in my empties from this palette. Then we have the shade Nowhere, which was at 49 uses, and now it's at 76. So I've used it 27 times. And once I was done with the shade Softly, this became my primary brow shade. So this is how it looks like. I have it in my autumnal BYOP, but I think you can see that the pan has expanded quite a bit. I mean, there was a bit of pan, but it expanded very well. And I'm also lowering the amount of product in the pan, so it's getting a little bit closer to the pan all throughout the entire surface. And I've been only using it as my brow shade, but I will start to use it as my like deepening up crease shade. I can either use it with the green shade that is left from this palette, or it also looks really nice with pinks, light blues, light purples, yellows. I think I might do a look with this yellow and this one, because if I'm just gonna use it in my brows, it's gonna take forever to use up, and probably I'm not gonna be able to finish it this year. So I have to also incorporate it a bit into my looks, and it's not a problem. I do actually really enjoy this, especially with purples and pinks, because this gray has a bit of purple in it, and with my like warmer undertone, it does turn into more like a neutral purple more than a gray shade. So I think I have a good chance of actually finishing this one up, and yeah, I'm using it every single day. And those are all the shades that I have left from the Christmas Eve palette. So right now I'm only using up 2 shades, and we have 2 months left, so I should do it, but also I have to really focus. And this palette, I also count not just individual uses for each eyeshadow, but also the amount of looks I've created with that entire palette. So every single time I use that palette for a look, like every single day I use it, I count it as 1 use. And we went from 259 uses of that palette to 287. So I've used it 28 times, meaning 28 days. And that's because I'm using it as my brow shade pretty much every single time. I think there were one day I haven't worn makeup. Or no, I did, but I think I've used different shades maybe. And then one day I was testing something else. So that's the only reason. Otherwise, we would have a full month of usage on this. And I obviously don't have these shades in, like I don't have all of the shades in one particular palette, but I've had most of these in this Old Earth palette that I've used up last year. So I also count the weight for this one. I don't have a weight for the shade Nowhere, the gray one, but for this one I do. And we went from 105.11 grams to 104.85 grams, meaning I've used up 0.26 grams of product. And you can tell that even though it's like 3 pans that I've used up, there was very little product left. I mean, we have like a quarter of an eyeshadow for most brands, and that's not that hard to use up in a month if you have it spread across multiple different colors so that you can use them kind of for different looks and in different combinations. So that's the Christmas Eve. Then another palette that I want to completely use up, and it's the only palette from this collection that I also want to use up, is the Liana palette from Shall We Makeup. This one was my Panda palette for last year as well. And I only have 3 shades. This is a quad, but I only have 3 shades left because one of them was used up, I think, even before I rolled it into this project for this year. So Liana, I'm gonna start with this first matte shade. I'm gonna start with the first matte shade, which is called Trap Queen. And that one went from 15 uses to 21 uses, meaning I've used it 6 times. And this is how it looks like. I think the pan has expanded a little bit, but just a little bit. I'm obviously focusing more on the shade just now because it would be great to have the entire Christmas Eve palette used up. It's definitely way more exciting than just this little quad. So this one I've used 6 times, but that's all that I was able to do with this one. Then next up is the shade Silvery Snake. And Silvery Snake went from 41 uses to 50 uses, so I've used it 9 times. I actually am wearing it today in my inner corner. It's like a silvery shade, and I think the pan has expanded a little bit. You're not probably gonna be able to see that because it's a silver pan with a silver shade, so you know, and they're pretty much the same depth. But this is how it looks like. But what I think happened with in the past month is that I've really lowered the amount of product that is in the pan, and I'm very, very happy about that. Like, I genuinely believe I can use it up this year, especially since obviously it's silver and we're getting into the colder months. So I will be wearing more of these like blue, gray, cool toned looks, and I have a good chance of actually using it up. And then the last shade in this palette, it's called Full Bloom, and we went from 23 uses to 31 uses. So I've used it 8 times this month. Again, whenever I would use the greens from the Christmas Eve, I would also pair it with this, just so that I have another use of it. Usually I use it in my outer corner, and then I, like in the outer half of my lid, and then I cover it up with lighter shimmer kind of in the beginning part so that it like creates a nice ombre effect. And we've definitely expanded the pan on this one. This one is pretty dry shade, and it's not, well, not crumbly, but it's very thick. So whenever you use a little bit, it just kind of, you always get too much on your, I use this shade with my fingers, so I always get too much on my fingers just because of the consistency of the shade. And also these pans are so shallow, like they're teeny tiny. I feel like every single time I use these shades, they're just gonna like fall out of the palette because I feel like there's nothing holding them in really. It's a strange little pan, and I think you have only 1 gram, right? Yeah, you're only getting 1 gram, and these are quite like big pans. They're shallow, but they're like large. So yeah, it's expanding really fast. And for the total amount of uses for this palette, we went from 52 to 62. So I've used it for 10 different looks this month, and we went from 65.75 grams to 65.51 grams. So I've used up 0.24 grams of product. Again, a quarter of an eyeshadow. I'm very, very happy about that. That makes me super happy. And obviously, it's mostly due to the fact that it's a very like monochromatic palette. So you just use a lot of the shades for one look every single time. And then we have 2 more palettes. So one of them is the Salmona 2 palette from Oden's Eye. This one is gonna be really quick update, to be honest, because we went from 161 looks created with this palette to 163. So I've only used it for 2 looks, and looks is a very loose term here because one look for me is either using it on my eyes for that day or using it on my nails. If I use it on my eyes and nails, I just count it as one use. But then I count individual uses for the eyeshadows. So like if I were to use this particular blue on my nails, that's 5 uses. And if I were to also use it on my eyes, it's 6 uses for that eyeshadow, but it's only one look created with this palette if I've used it for one day, essentially. And both of these uses were for the shade that I have on my nails. It's the only shade in this palette that doesn't have a pan, and that's called Deep Space. It's this dark blue shimmer. So this one went from hello, where is it? Oh, it went from 14 uses to 24. So I've used it for 2 manicures. I will definitely use it on my eyes as well this month because I already have at least 2 looks planned with this. And also I have a couple palettes in my collection that will go nicely with this shade. But it's the only shade that I've used. Normally I try to nope and left behind this, but this month I've been trying to nope and left behind a lot of my autumnal palettes, and also I'm currently at level 3 for my project level up. So, and it's not a big palette, but it's not small palette either, so it takes a little bit more work to go through that. And yeah, and also I'm not struggling with my Pendos eyeshadows, but there's definitely some shades that are a lot harder than I was expecting. And it's a little bit, it just takes a lot more for me, and I've been focusing on the Christmas Eve and the Liana palette a little bit more than I normally do. So this one kind of fell to the wayside, and I haven't used the other shades at all. So just to recap, Soft Cloud is still at 26 uses, Mercury is still at 23, Neptune is at 30 uses, this one, as I said, is 24 uses, Nebula is 32, Meteor is 47, Dream is 33, Starry Sky is 53, then Galaxy is 38, Hallucinations is 15, how is it called? Oh, Warm Light is 39, Sunlight is 27, Solar is 44, Eternal is 21, and Black Hole is 27. So that's where we are currently. And my goal for this palette was only to hit pan on every single shade. So since I have only 1 shade left and 2 months to go, and it's a cool tone deep blue that has a bit of turquoise. I don't know if you will be able to see it on the nails. There's like a little bit of, depending on how I move my nails, it's either like really deep blue, almost kind of purpley, and then the other side is kind of tealy turquoise. So it's actually a really pretty shade. And that's why I've been really enjoying it on my nails. I really love this color on my nails. And if I'm gonna focus on it a little bit more on my eyes, since we have quite a bit of a dip now, I think I can hit a pan within the next maybe like 10 uses. So technically, if I will focus on it in the next month, I can hit a pan. I'm gonna have like a soft goal of trying to no pan left behind this palette, but I'm not promising anything because I really want to no pan left behind a couple of my autumnal palettes that I haven't used too much this year yet. And some of them are a little bit bigger, so I think I might have a bit of trouble with this one. I still only use it a couple times just to expand some of the pans so that it's easier for me if I will want to focus on this palette next year for emptying it up. I should try to get as much progress this year as I can so that next year is a little bit easier for me. But also I'm just, you know, I'm going through a lot of palettes currently that I'm trying to have some usage or no pan left behind goals finished on, and I'm not sure. So it's gonna be a soft goal, but I'm not gonna be like too sad if I'm not gonna be able to complete it next month. And oh, and the weights. So even though I've only used one of the shades, obviously I've used it on my nail, so you do layer it quite a bit and you use it on every single nail. We went from 150.31 grams to 150.01 grams, meaning I've used up 0.3 grams of eyeshadow. I don't know, some months I feel like I'm not, even though I use it too much, almost too much, I don't see any difference in the weight, and some months, even though I don't really use it too much, there's a huge jump. So who knows? I don't understand this. My scale is or should be working. Like it's fairly new. I have new batteries there, so it should be okay. And then the last palette is the Beauty Bay Mini Charms palette. This is a small little 9-pan full of shimmers. All of them are kind of multichromy, duochromy, and most of them are quite iridescent. So it's a great formula to work on. It's a great companion palette. And for this one, I haven't used every single shade from this, but I've used some of them multiple times. So this is how it looks like. You've already seen the previous updates, and I think you can tell which shades I've used the most because these three, at least from, if my memory serves me right, these three should have bigger pans than last month. So when it comes to the uses, Milky Way went from 31 to 46, so I've used it 15 times. Supernova stayed at 14 uses. Infinity went from 24 to 32, so I've used it 8 times. Aurora went from 36 to 52, so I've used it 16 times. Then Cosmic went from 29 to 38, so I've used it 9 times. And then the shade Eclipse and Mystic I haven't used at all in the past month. So Eclipse stayed at 11 uses and Mystic stayed at 6 uses. Obviously we've used up the shade Pluto a while ago, and the shade Ethereal went from 11 to 12 uses, so I've only used it once. And I think that was because it was in my Pendos eyeshadows, and the one use was the one that gave me this beautiful, cute little pan. So I've been mostly focusing on the light shades. I've been using them as my face highlighter a lot, or also in my inner corners. And I love the fact that we have a little bit of pan expansion. Even this one expanded a little bit because I feel like the pan was super tiny last month, and now you can actually fully see it. It's not as big as like the other shades, but it's definitely visible. And because this was my palette crush of the month, I was able to use it every single day in the past month. So I have 31 more uses on it, and we're currently at 149 uses of this palette. It feels so strange that I've used it so much and we only have one shade finished, but also I use it mostly as a highlighting palette, or I use these dark shades just as like a metallic eyeliner. So I don't use up that much. Like if I were to use these all over the lid all the time, we would see a lot more progress. But since most of these are more like a toppery shades, and then the darker ones, I don't really reach for them too much. I will have to get better at that. Um, there's not too much of, like there's not as rapid of a pan expansion as I would get if I used these on my lids all the time. But as I said, I've used it 31 times at some capacity, and we went from 63.39 grams to 63.28 grams of product. So I've used up 0.11 grams, which is still quite nice. Like it's half of what I have on the other palettes. So I'm still very, very happy about this. And in total, if I count down all of these palettes, I was able to use up 0.91 grams of eyeshadow, which is almost a full pan, and that makes me very, very happy, to be honest. It's a little less than I've had in the previous months, because like last month it was 1.32 grams lost, and then previous to that it was 3.2 grams. So you know, it's a little bit less than I've had previously, but it's still really good. I think using up a full or almost full gram of eyeshadow in a month is amazing. And what helps, I think, is the fact that this one is more like a highlighting palette, so I can use the other palettes on my eyes and then use this on my face, and then I can get uses on all of them in the same day. Will I set any goals for next month? I would love to use up one of the shades from the Christmas Eve, but I honestly don't know which one would that be, because the green one, I feel like I would have to. I don't want to wear green all the time. I've been trying to wear green eyeshadows like twice a week, usually on the days where I have to be at work a little bit earlier than usual. I usually have to be there at like 7:30. Sometimes I have to be there a little bit earlier, like after 7. So on those days that I have to be there earlier, I would definitely do my green looks, because, you know, it's just the easiest thing for me. But I don't want to wear green all the time. I want to get uses out of my other colors and other palettes. But if I'm gonna use it twice a week, I'm not gonna be able to use it up in a month, but I would definitely expand the pan a lot. And then for the gray shade, also, like I can expand the pan a little bit by using it on my brows. If I'm gonna use it a couple times on my lids as well, I will definitely expand the pan. But again, I don't think I'm gonna be able to use it up. To be honest, this one I can definitely use a little bit more because it's a deepening up shade. It's not fully outer corner shade, but it's definitely like a shade that I would use to deepen up my crease. And I can use it with a lot of different colors. Like I can have that as like my main crease shade, or like the outer crease shade, and then just change up the inner corner, and then I can wear it like this for a whole week and still get different looks out of it. So if I'm gonna use up any of these two, it's probably gonna be the shade Noir. But I still don't think that that could actually happen within the next 4 weeks or so. I will try to hit a pan on the Deep Space shade from the Salmona palette. So that's gonna be the goal. I'm gonna try to hit the last pan here, and soft goal will be to no pan left behind this one. And that's the only thing I'm gonna attempt this month. Yeah, there's really nothing else that I could realistically accomplish. Maybe, okay, another goal will be using this palette for 10 different looks. Because I have it in my project 20 uses and I still have to use it like, I don't know, 7 times for that project. So, and I do want to roll this out of my project 20 uses in the next update. So I will definitely use it at least like 7 times or however much I have left. And yeah, then I'm gonna use it a couple more times. I do update my project 20 uses around the first third of the month, and obviously I update this on the 25th of each month. So yeah, 10 uses on this palette. It's another goal, and it's the last goal for this project. So let me know what you thought about this one. Let me know if you like my progress, and in case you are part of the Pendos palettes or Penda palette like project, let me know if you had any major accomplishments within the last month. But that is gonna be everything for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I hope you're having a great panning journey. And I'll be super happy to see you tomorrow for makeup news. I think that's what I'm gonna be updating. I think that's what I'm gonna be uploading tomorrow. So have a great day and bye.